been having a series of fascinating discussions with Vanna Jacobs from Family Life. He joins us again. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Good morning, Andrew. Great to be on.
Now, we're going through this series looking at how to have joy-filled marriages. Last week, we were talking about the importance of playing together. What are we focusing on this week, Vanna?
Yeah, today the focus is listening for emotions. Okay. So, and specifically those together. So, a lot of people, and I love this about communication, a lot of people think that they were listening when they were keeping quiet, when they were able to just allow the other person to complete a sentence. But I don't know who said this, but somebody said, some people think that they were listening when they were merely waiting for their turn to speak.
Wow.
So, so I don't know if that's you today. Maybe we need to be made aware of our poor listening habits. But today's insert is really all about how do we listen to engage and how do we listen to connect with our partner. And the work that I'm talking about here is referencing a book by Dr. Marcus Warner and Chris Causey called The 4 Habits of Joy-Filled Marriages.
Yeah.
And of course, this is the second one in the series of 4 habits. And I'll just quickly give you the overview. It's plan. So play together, listen for emotions. And that's the one we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And we can share the other 2 next week.
Now, when it comes to listening, and I love this, how specific this gets, it's not just listening to the words. What did they say? What were the words that they choose? But how they're feeling about stuff evident, not just from the words that they used, but from other little clues that we should be able to pick up, right?
That's right. So, I mean, those that are really good at listening learn how to listen not only for what's being said, but also for what's not being said. Okay. Yep. That's a whole nother topic in terms of, honing your listening skills. But today, I just want to focus on listening for emotion. And the interesting brain science behind this is that the brain actually processes information from right to left. Now, when I read that, I immediately thought, well, that's interesting because in our language, we read and write from left to right. But the original, I guess, more ancient languages, some of them actually wrote from right to left. So I wonder if there's something there.
Hardwired.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
However, I digress a little bit here, but learning this fact about the brain, how it processes information from your right side of the brain to your left side of the brain, means the information actually needs to go through the one before it gets to the other.
Okay.
Now, the problem with that is a lot of us, we listen to what is being said and we jump into problem solving mode immediately. Now, that is the logical, analytical side of your brain.
Yeah.
But communication is important in marriage unless our relationship circuits are off. Now, in his work, he talks about our relationship circuits being, do I feel connected to this person right now?
Yeah.
So the moment we become relationally disconnected, we actually stop listening. We stop listening to the person and we stop listening to what's really going on.
Yeah.
And we just treat the conversation as a problem to be solved, and worse, sometimes the person as a problem to go away rather than a person to be cherished. So communication can actually be harmful to your relationship if you don't make sure you're relationally connected when you're trying to communicate.
And it's so important. It changes the way in which we see somebody. And it's in a marriage relationship, so I'm going to presume that we're in communication with somebody that we care for, that we respect. If we know that the person that is talking to us is scared or anxious or feeling vulnerable or is perhaps dealing with grief at some level, if we can understand that emotional context of their communication, hopefully it changes the way in which we receive it and increases our empathy for them. Is this what we're looking for?
Spot on. And I love this illustration. I think it was Greg Smalley from Focus on the Family that shared this illustration of a fist and an open hand. Now, If you are trying to talk to somebody who's relationally shut down or closed off,
Yeah.
they're like a fist, and you're like the open hand trying to go yada, 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 and the fist isn't taking in any information.
Yeah.
The way to actually communicate in a way that's not going to just be like water off of a duck's back,
Yeah.
the way to communicate would be to gently start, if you look at my example, I'm stroking my fist gently to
Yeah.
get it to warm up and eventually maybe open up.
Mm.
Now, if you've got two open hands, think of it as two partners that are open and loving and safe with one another. Well, now communication can flow, So the way you actually open up towards one another is by connecting relationally first.
Yeah.
And then looking at the problem. Like, it's not saying we ignore the problem. It's to saying we focus on relationally connecting first. And this is called validation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like this idea of validation because they think it means agreement. Validating somebody's emotions does not mean I have to agree with why they're feeling their emotions.
Yeah.
But when I've been able to accurately name what they're feeling and I get the old nod from them, as in, yep, you got it, then they feel heard, they feel understood, and they would be more open to actually hearing what I have to say about the logical problem solving aspect of it.
Yeah.
But the problem, and I'm just like, I've been terrible at this. Let me just lead by that. But I'm learning to listen for emotions, even when I don't agree with why those emotions are there in the first place.
Yeah.
And I've just found that listening for emotions first means that the next part, the problem solving of the conversation, that just becomes so much easier. And I've also learned that people in general, this is not only spouses, people in general are more accommodating when they feel understood. So something that you would have stepped into a heated debate or argument because you've got different views on something, you could just go in argumentative mode there, or you can try connecting relationally, and you might just find your partner or your spouse becomes more, I guess, accommodating because you're relationally connected and the relationship is strong, the relationship is first. And here's the phrase to remember: let's keep our relationship bigger than the problem.
Wow. Yeah. No, super good. Now, it's also fair to say, and we could bring some gender-based generalizations into this, but some people are more emotionally intelligent than others. Some people are more intuitive as to how the other person may be feeling, and some others may sort of have the blinkers on in that regard. Is it okay to ask? Is it okay to, in that conversation, say, how are you feeling right now? Is it okay to initiate? If you're not sure what emotions are playing, can we ask that question?
Yeah, totally ask that question. And remember, they might not yet know what they're feeling either.
Yeah.
And this goes for parenting as well. You get a young person, like maybe a 2 or 3 year old, experiencing big emotions. If you are able to accurately name those emotions, they feel safe, they feel seen, and they feel more able to navigate back to joy from whatever emotion they're feeling. So you get these, if you can actually just Google wheel of emotions, and it gives you like this big wheel of different names of emotions. So you can just learn what the different emotions are and get better names to things and help name things. Like, I'd encourage you listening to this, go and search for the wheel of emotions. But they've found that all the big negative emotions can be sort of categorized in the 6 major negative emotions. And I can share that with you today in a very easy to remember little acronym called SAD. Okay.
Yep.
So think of the big negative emotions as sad emotions, SAD, SAD. And I'm going to give you the 6 in a second.
Yeah.
But the goal would be, when you're experiencing these emotions or a derivative of these 6 major ones, how can you navigate back to joy, back to being your relational self?
Now, Vanna, we're just about out of time for today. So if you can give us the sad, and point us into the direction on how we can pinpoint this.
Easy. So we go S for sadness, A, anxiety, D, disgust, the second S, shame,
Mm-hmm.
anger, and despair.
Okay.
So that's sad, and that's the big negative emotions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
No, hey, such complex stuff, but so important to get this right. I love that metaphor as well of when you're talking to somebody when they're a closed fist, finding what the obstacle is and encouraging them to open up, listening for emotions. Such an important message. Vanna, thank you for what you do at Family Life. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.